some of you probably were here when I was in the midst of my service learning project a number of years ago, and so I'm going to give you an update. It's not a great story. It's not a great outcome, but it's one that brings with it a great deal of learning. So just briefly, or as briefly as I can be, I started a service learning project through the Honors College where I had to launch my news literacy class 4 or 5 years ago. And the great thing about having the honors component, or having the honors audience for a news literacy class, is that you're going to have aerospace engineering students, you're going to have education students, sociology students, pre-med students, pre-law students, a whole bunch of really, really bright students, and usually capped at 15 or 20 students. And it gives you a great deal of flexibility on what you can do with things like news literacy. And it happened to be a time when the Honors College took on a project, a very ambitious project, a town gown project. And if you're familiar with those, you know that they come in various forms. And San Marcos, for instance, since we were talking about Texas State, and if you go to San Marcos, Texas, the campus is adjacent to the downtown area. And so it makes it very easy to have town gown kinds of relationships. Well, at my campus, it's not really that easy. And it's not because we don't have a town, and it's not because we don't have gowns. It's because the towns and gowns did not grow up together like they did in San Marcos. The campus was built in the 1960s on the old Tamiami Airport. And up until recently, the police station was still the air traffic control tower, which is still on campus. And it's gone from about initial enrollment of 4,000 to almost 50,000 students. So the Honors College took on the project of building the town gown relationship with a city called Sweetwater, which is right across the street. And we're on Calle Ocho, on the end of Calle Ocho. And so the city of Sweetwater has had no relationship to this university except being able to see it every day. And the university's had no relationship with the community. So the Honors College Dean launched this project and said, everybody who's teaching in there, we want you to think of ways that you can integrate into the Sweetwater community in this town gown project. So the people in political science launched internships in City Hall. The engineering school placed interns in the various engineering components of the city. It was amazing. There were about 12 different points, and one of them that there's no media structure in the city of Sweetwater. They said, well, how could you integrate this class in there? So I thought, well, we'll try to do a news literacy project among the citizens of Sweetwater. Now, the citizens of Sweetwater, 92% Hispanic, 90% bilingual. Well, no, not 90% bilingual, 90% Spanish-speaking in its population. Sweetwater started as, oddly enough, an enclave that was the winter home of Russian circus midgets. It's true. How could I make that up? As you probably know, Sarasota was the winter home for the circus, for Barnum and Bailey. Sweetwater was the winter home for the Russian circus midgets. All the homes are gone now. They've been destroyed. There's plenty of pictures of them. But the sad part of it is that the homes, all the dwarf homes have all been demolished. And so as the generation of the Russian circus midgets sort of was dying out, the last generation was dying out, it was replaced by an influx of Cubans. And then we started getting waves in the 80s and late 70s and the 80s of waves of Nicaraguans. So Sweetwater became known now as, you know, we have Little Haiti, we have Little Havana, and we have Little Managua. And so Sweetwater is known as Little Managua. So the challenge here is that you got a language problem with news literacy, you got a media problem because they're obviously not consuming the same things that people in other parts of Dade County or in South Beach or even North Miami Beach are consuming. So you have a very, very unique audience. So we went in there, I got my students, we canvassed the entire city of Sweetwater with these honor students, most of whom were bilingual. 92% of the 475 inventories that we did, face-to-face inventories that we did in these people's houses, were in fact done in Spanish. 8% were done in English. So we took the data from these and we decided that and we basically were trying to find out what their consumption habits were, which basically was using the internet to read Nicaraguan news, primarily. But some of them, very, very few read El Nuevo Herald, which we thought there would be maybe not a high number of them, but we found almost a total disinterest in El Nuevo Herald. And so anyway, the point is we went and we took all this data and we found out some pretty neat stuff about this community. We found also, asked them their interest if they would be interested in participating in a news literacy, learning about news literacy. Would they take a course for 10 weeks, one night a week with 2 cohorts in the Senior Citizen Center, which in fact was the most beautiful facility in the city, that has a great computer lab, and would they come down and do this? And we had 125 of them who said, yes, I would do this. Problem is, many of them work 2 or 3 jobs. It's very hard for them to free up the time to do that, so we needed to incentivize it. And so we wrote 2 grant proposals and went to major funders, and we asked for the money for the incentive, and the incentive was set up this way. If you came to 10 of the, we were going to pay you, we were going to pay each one of them $20 a night, and if they came to all 10 sessions, they were going to get a bonus of $100. And then we were going to have dinner for them, because the most opportune time for them to do it was 6:30 in the evening, after work, with no food. So we asked for the grant money to do that and to facilitate 2 cohorts, 2 nights a week, 1 cohort in each night. And both of the grant proposals were rejected. And so what had happened is that I didn't have, our honors classes run for a whole year. If you design an honors class, you have to teach it for 2 semesters. You have those students for an entire academic year. Students get 6 hours of credit, but you have to have 2 semesters worth of material to teach them. So the service learning part of it was in the 2 years that we did this, was in the 2nd semester and the spring semester. And the 1st semester was, of course, the basics of news, in other words, teaching in the news literacy. The students also built the curriculum for the community. They designed it, they came up with some wonderful ideas and some wonderful teaching techniques. So we essentially had a whole component to do it, and I'm sorry to say that we have yet to launch it. So that's my sad story, where we can celebrate this wonderful project in Atlanta, which is a wonderful project. But please understand that if you're doing service learning, and I cannot emphasize this more, it is going to eat up as much time as you allow it to eat up, and it's some of it is expensive, or is, you know, and money may not be there. And if you're at a very poor school like I am, it's even worse. So that's the bad news story of the morning. Sorry to get the day kicked off like that. Thank you.